Hey, welcome to this video. I created this based on some client interaction that I've had over the past couple weeks. This topic was top of mind for me, so I wanted to bring this to you and share some information. I entitled this Cash Flow. What if payment never arrives? This is for electrical contractors, and the topic is safeguarding earnings. Quick welcome. My name is Johnny Barrett with Barrett Consulting. We serve electrical business owners. I have a quick quote of the week. It's from Jim Rohn. I love him and his writings, his speeches. And one of the quotes that comes to mind from him is he says, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better." But he says it like, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better." Um, I got this picture of someone climbing a mountain. A lot of times we want things to be easier, but if it was easier, we probably really wouldn't value it a whole lot. So let's dive into the topic, cash flow, accounts receivable, and write-offs. So this first point here, I wanted to talk about a recent project that I've been working on with a client to go through their accounts receivable and see what's collectible and what's not. They have a few items that are older, and so we've been going through that. And as I have been going through that, it's just been on my mind that, sometimes as business owners, we're looking at our financial statements and we look at, okay, what were our earnings? We look at our revenue, especially if it's on an accrual basis, accrual accounting, not cash accounting. The distinction between the two is for cash accounting, it's you record revenue as presented on the profit and loss when you receive the cash. Um, Whereas for accrual accounting, it's you're recording the profit and loss is showing income whenever there's an invoice. It'll show income as of the invoice date. And we recommend looking at reports in terms of accrual accounting. So if you're looking at your reports in terms of accrual accounting for profit and loss, and let's say, you earned X amount, $50,000 for a month. Well, how much of that $50,000 is actually going to be converted into payments to your business? If there's a percentage of it that an average that's written off, then really it's not an accurate representation of the total income. So it's something we need to keep in mind. Um, and in this client's case, there were some balances that were written off. So one thing that I recommend for my clients to do is on a monthly basis when you're reviewing your financial statements to dive into accounts receivable and accounts payable to make sure that that your reports are reflecting, the total comprehensive picture of your finances. So your accounts receivable is, any open invoices, all of your client accounts, what balances are unpaid, billed but unpaid. So, so the next point here, I wanted to bring up. So there's another client that my team and I have been working with for quite some time now. And one of the things that we have helped them with is through our monthly reporting, we um, share accounts receivable reports. It's abbreviated as AR, accounts receivable. We'll share those reports, and between us sharing those reports and having that consistency and the client's team doing their collection efforts and kind of staying on top of things. Their accounts receivable has been trending very well. They've had a 40% reduction of their accounts receivable balance, which basically means they've they've taken what used to be, a larger amount that's been in the collections bucket, and they've transferred that into cash by collecting from their clients more quickly. And so, whenever we can do that, it really helps with cash flow. And so that's been a really good trend for that client, has translated into much more cash in the bank more quickly. Um, and as I was thinking through this topic, I wanted to share a story with you. Early on in my career, when I was doing bookkeeping and accounting work for a local residential contractor, I my boss was like, "Hey, would you have any interest in collecting going out and collecting payments?" Um, Actually, I had already been doing some collections just over the phone for open invoices, doing some phone calls, looking at liens that they had placed on a couple accounts. This was back in 2009, so of course, the economy had slowed down, and for this uh, contracting business, there were some accounts that were very past due and looked like they may become uncollectible. So I was helping with this a little bit. And one day he said, "Hey, how would you feel about going out and collecting, like knocking on somebody's door? We haven't been able to get a hold of this person. We know where they live." And I was like, open for a challenge and something different. And I said, he said, "By the way, if you collect this, then we're gonna give you a good commission on it." So I thought, oh sure, why not give this a try? So there I was, walking up, the steps on the client's porch and knocking on the door, and he actually answered the door, and I said, "Hey, I'm so and so with so and so. Looks like there's a balance still owed of X amount. Just wondering if we could collect payment on this." And he actually said, "Yeah, come on in," and wrote me out a check and handed it to me. So um, imagine the surprise of my boss when first try, went out there to talk to this person, came back with a check in hand, said, "Here you go," and got my commission. So that was just kind of a fun story. It was the best part of the whole story was my boss, just the expression on his face, just, you know, pure surprise of that it actually worked out. Um, so next point here, cash flow crunch. I wanted to talk about one of the jobs that I worked at. I was an accounts receivable manager for a tech company, and it was interesting because we had very high billing. We actually billed we processed over $1 billion a month because we were a third party, and so our revenue on that was very tiny amount, but we billed the full amount and passed on, um, you know, more than 90% in a lot of cases onto the other party. So billings were really high, and there was a point in time when there was a cash flow crunch. We had gone from accounts receivable in the range of around 500 to $700,000, up to where it was like over $1 million, like $1.5 million just tied up in unpaid invoices. And with the volume, that could happen fairly easily. And really, what had happened was we had an accounting system change, and it had led to you know us dropping some of the processes and stuff like that. And I wasn't the accounts receivable manager at the time, but I was brought on to help move to this team to kind of help with that and implement this. So, long story short, there was a lot of money to be collected, and we put some very strong processes in place to increase our communication with the customers of balances that were owed and just really staying on top of things. And we brought that back down from about 1.5 million down to the like $500,000 mark. Happened that the owner was at the time working towards the sale of the company as well, and so it really helped the valuation, I believe, and helped him at that point in time have the financials in a strong position to be able to present the company, and ultimately he got an excellent selling price for it. So. Of course, I didn't know that up front, but in hindsight, I was able to see that work that we did in improving the cash flow and getting the money in the door more quickly made a difference. And so wanted to bring that up to you, how can getting money in the door quicker really strengthen your company and lead to more opportunities? And lastly, wanted to mention I've done work in banking as well, done uh, accounting in banking, and in banking we have what is called allowance for credit losses, ACL. And so whenever a bank is posting income, there also has to be a corresponding expense for credit loss, which is the loans that they expect to go bad or to be written off or charged off. They all are also called. And so, if we think like that as a business owner as well, how much money we're bringing in of that money, is it possible to keep 100%? If so, what needs to be in place so that collections can be absolutely 100% and that it can be quick? If we think in those terms, then our businesses can be even more profitable because we're mitigating losses. Okay, so um, with that introduction, I just wanted to share a few thoughts on collecting. Then we'll go through some best practices, and I think this will be valuable for you. So thoughts on collecting. So upfront due diligence can eliminate a lot of potential problems, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but yeah, being conscious and diligent upfront in relationships. That the next point is relationship alignment. Like we got to be um, not that we have to be, but as we approach, new business relationships, just being thoughtful and diligent in who we're working with and whether they're going to respect the work and the value that we're going to give and whether we will be compensated on time and completely for that value that's exchanged. So ensure value is given, but also ensure that we have the structures in place that we will get the retribution for the value that we've given. And so the last point here is invest in worthwhile processes and procedures to reduce loss or bring it to zero. Okay, so I looked this up. This isn't like a comprehensive list, but just a few things to think about in terms of best practices for um, maintaining a very strong cash flow and avoiding charge-offs or write-offs. Um, so the first one is clear contracts and payment terms. Um, we need to, by communicating those things up front with our clients or potential clients or prospects, then everybody knows clearly what the terms are. Credit checks and customer vetting. Um, Obviously, there's different ways to do that, but in the end, we just want to ensure that, they're organized on top of things and uh, they have a track record and will fulfill their obligations. Invoicing best practices. So obviously, we're not going to receive payments quickly if we're not on top of invoicing on a timely manner. The sooner they get the invoice, the more quickly that they can pay it. And then follow up on payments. If we send an invoice out and then we just don't say anything, don't receive a payment for a long, long time, and then all of a sudden realize that and then start following up, there's going to be an issue. But if we send the invoice out and we're proactively communicative, then it's much more likely that we'll have a quick turnaround. Um, and for some businesses, kind of coming back to this clear contract and payment terms, it may make sense to, have a portion, and you probably already do this, have a portion paid up front or some kind of a deposit that will incentivize the client to show up to be available for when you have them scheduled, um, and and really so that just everything is aligned in terms of the relationship from the beginning. Um, So number five here, offer incentives for early payment. That's something you can consider. Use payment bonds or retainage. I think this is in the context of, larger, probably commercial projects. Hire a collection agency as a last resort. So there are collection agencies. So if there's a pretty significant balance or many accounts that are owing balances, Depending on the relationship, that could be a way to go, is use a collection agency. In different jobs that I've had, we have used collection agencies for different things here and there. And number eight is legal action for non-payment. This could be something like placing a lien, a mechanic's lien on the property, things like that. And number nine is to diversify client base. Obviously, if you have all your eggs in one basket and that relationship turns sour or there's an issue for that client, then it can be negatively impact the business. So by having a diverse client base can strengthen um, your ability to collect payment quickly and reliably. So those are just some thoughts for you. As you evaluate your processes for your accounts receivable. So I have a couple questions to pose to you, and then we'll close out here. Have you experienced slow payments or write-offs in your business? And if so, how has this impacted your cash flow? Is this something that like keeps you awake at night or keeps you needing to check your mobile banking all the time to make sure, hey, do I have enough cash to cover the payment that I just made or the upcoming payment to my supplier? We're short on cash. How can we space this out? If it's something where, this is top of mind and something that concerns you a lot, um, and it's due to the slow payments or, the setup that you have for collecting payments for customers, that might be something to look at. So, the next question is, how can investment and process management actually save you money? I think beyond the money, just going back to what I was talking about is like if this cash flow management is an issue and it's, affecting you day in and day out, um, that's something that, kind of goes beyond the money and, can affect us as business owners at times. So, I wanted to pose this as a question for you. How can your investment and process management actually save you money and time and concern and all of that? Um, Obviously, if we have a really tight process, then hopefully it can save us money by just not ever having to have write-offs, right? So we'll get paid for all the work that we do. Now I have a challenge for you to evaluate your cash flow, evaluate your unpaid invoices to identify any areas for improvement. And obviously, this touches on finance, it touches on business operations. And so the next point is to determine if any process changes that you make could avoid some write-offs. Wanted to say a big thank you. Thanks for watching the video. I hope this is helpful for you. I hope it's a good mind exercise, and I challenge you to actually go ahead and implement some of these things to, get more cash in the door and more quickly, and to have even better relationships with those clients that you have, and yeah, to avoid losses, avoid having to write some of those invoices off to bad debt or, um, you know, charge-offs. So if you would be interested, I'd love to discuss cash flow and accounts receivable with you, see what our team could do to help you out with that. Like I said before, it's something that we work with our clients on, whether it's just, through our normal monthly reporting, or if there's you know, way, ways to refine that, additional reporting that we can do that helps their operations team. Um, we've seen some good results and would be happy to sit down and look at this with you. So thanks a lot. Hope you're having a great day and we'll talk soon.